Well, good evening. It's a lovely overcast day here in Saskatchewan, Canada, if you prefer. But it is unseasonably warm for this time of year, late in October, though I'm certainly not complaining. And to enjoy today's fine weather, I'm down here in a basement filming. Anyway, first off, I'd like to apologize for the ratty t-shirt. I'm afraid it's laundry day, and so I'm kind of down to the dregs in, shall we say, formal evening wear. But hey-ho, I still like the slogan. So today I've got a bit of an update for you on the P-12E. Now, I had hoped to have more work done on this by now, but unfortunately the new job is taking up quite a bit of my time. In fact, I have to be at work at the wee hours of the morning, 2:30 a.m. to be precise. So I'm hoping to bang out this video and get a little bit of a nap in and then be off to work. Joy. Anyway, so I've got decalling done and I'm going to go through that today. And I had hoped to get to assembly and rigging, but I'm afraid that's going to have to wait for the next video. So it may be a slightly quick update today, but hey ho, let's get on with it, shall we? Okay, well, this is where I'm up to. As you can see, I've got the unit marking on there, and I've done the black stripes around the orange, which I think looks really sharp. Really like that. And I'll go through the process of how I did that. But before I get into that, I'm just going to have a quick word about the decals that I'm actually using for this. Number one, here, microscale sheet. Not impressed. Sorry, Microscale. Yeah, kind of fired this one up. Number one, that unit marking is way too small. Unfortunately, it was the only game in town, so I kind of had to use it. But if we compare it to the actual picture here, there we go. So look at that. In the profile, there's the one at the bottom that I'm doing. We have a look at that, and you can see that the real one, he's actually quite a bit bigger than that. It stretches up to that line that goes right under the cockpit coaming. So, not a deal breaker. Still looks pretty good, but yeah, you kind of screwed up there, Microscale. And the other one, and this one is even worse, actually. Let me just put this aside before I break it because I have a habit of doing stupid things like that. The other one concerns the U.S. Army titles that go under the bottom wing. And as you can see, I cut that one out and then discovered this problem. They are printed way too small. In fact, those are 1/48 scale, not 1/32 scale. And if we compare, it's getting very confusing. We'll put that over there. So I've got this picture that I've been working from, and that really nicely displays those markings underneath there. And as you can see, they're quite large. They're almost the chord of the wing. And if we compare the microscale ones, yeah, like that, that there. So put that, okay, let's get that on here. We compare that. You can see, I know if I got my thumb out of there so you can see it. Get in there. There we go. Compare that. It's pretty darn small. It's way too small. And I compared these to my 48 scale drawings, and yeah, these are 1/48 scale. So way to go, Microscale. You completely screwed up this sheet. Hey-oh, what are you gonna do? So what I've done is I've actually created a set of masks to paint that U.S. Army marking under the bottom wing, and I'm gonna go through that and show you what that looks like, and hopefully it'll be quite a bit better. And yeah, for now, let's get into the decalling process, and I'll show you how I did the black stripes around that orange cheat line down the side. Alrighty then, so this is how I've been putting on the black decal strips. So first of all, we'll take our handy dandy little P-12E here, and I'm just using a pair of dividers, or whatever the hell you call these things, a compass, I don't know. And so I'm just taking a rough measurement of my stripe and adding a little bit extra on there to allow for the curvature. Put that aside. There we go. And then, so check that on my ruler. What have I got? Just over 3 inches, 3 inches and an eighth, give or take. Better to have a little bit extra, obviously. And then just line that up. And I do recommend not having 2.5 cups of coffee before you do this, like I did, because as you can see, I'm a little bit shaky. I do love my coffee, though. All right, so I want to cut pretty close to the decal, but not too close because you run the risk of chipping it or cracking it. And that's about right. Hang on, where's my 3 1/8? There we go. Why waste decal if you don't need to, right? Come on, get in there. Okay, there we go. So close, but not right up against it. And I'm just using very, very light pressure. And actually already pre-scored this, so that's why that's gone right through. A couple of light cuts. And then I'll flip that around. Oops. Okay, and where the hell was I? This one. That. And then we're just scoring through there very, very lightly up to my previous cut mark. Thusly. And I'm just using an old piece of plexiglass, by the way, to cut on here. I suppose I could use a cutting mat if I had a spare one, but my cutting mat is covered in crap at the moment. Okay. So, yep, scoring lightly through there. And there we go. Alrighty, so I got my black decal strip cut out there and actually left a little more clear area on there than I wanted, but that's okay, it'll still work. And so then I pop it in my hot water, and those of you who may remember from the very first video, I did a little section on decaling there, and I like my water as hot as possible. Number one, it allows the decal to release quite quickly. You only need about 10 seconds in there. Where are my darn tweezers? Over here. Get that puppy out, and that'll be ready to go. I'll just stick it on some paper towel. And the other reason, and that's especially important with this particular job, is that the decal will be slightly more flexible, and so it'll go around our curves quite nicely when it's hot like that. Now, I did have a few comments on that first video about my little setup here for keeping the water hot. I've got a candle under there. I'm actually just going to blow that out. There we go. I had a few comments about people that were concerned that, yes, we're using flammable materials, paint thinner and glue, and such and so forth, and should we really be having an open flame around that kind of thing? Well, probably not. But my response to that was, if you're the proportion of chemicals to your atmosphere is such that you're going to ignite it, I think you've got bigger problems than worrying about a little candle flame, like asphyxiation or toxicity in the old lungs and blood system. So I've been using this setup for years and years and years, and I've never burned a house down yet. Yet, that is. Anyway, let's get to decaling, shall we? I've got it set up on a little box here just for the purposes of filming, just to make it a little easier to show. And so I'm going to use Microscale as my solution to put underneath the decal. And I want to keep it nice and wet with this stuff so this decal doesn't dry out on me too quickly, because it will be moving it around quite a bit. Oh, lots on there. There we go. Okay, so and now this is the tricky part, getting it off the sheet. Get on there. There we go. Doesn't matter if I get it placed completely bizarrely at the moment. There we go. So, get off me. Okay, so basically, the process now is I'm just going to nudge this into position using my brush. No, damn it. Get on there. Work with me. Come on. Okay. So, now, and again, I'll put some more Microscale on so it's easier to move around. And it's just a case of trying to be patient and nudge it into position slowly, pulling it along. Yeah, it's a bit tricky to do it and film it. Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is, yeah, okay. So, if I can just pull it forward a bit. And basically, I'm just using my brush the whole time here. Don't want to use anything like a tip of a knife or your fingers. If you use your fingers, chances are the deckle's going to stick to them, and that's going to be really, really frustrating. And if you use the tip of a knife, then you obviously run the risk of damaging it. So there we go. There's the process. You just sort of, this is really annoying me. Guess I didn't really think this through. Anyway, kind of works. So there we go. As you can see, I'm getting it closer and closer. And I still need to move this forward a bit if I can. Oh, I need. Let's go. But you get the idea anyway. It's just a case of just repeatedly nudging it, moving it with the brush, making sure that you're keeping it nice and wet with plenty of microset. You can use water as well. That works too. I like using microset. And as you can see, that's starting to get in position. And then what I do is I just keep sort of checking down the fuselage like that. And that will show you if you've got any kinks or bends in there that you don't want. And that's really the process. You just keep nudging and checking and moving, and eventually you get it into the right spot. And I should mention too that I'm not actually overlapping the line between the olive drab and the orange. When I painted the orange, I made it slightly oversized to account for the thickness of that black stripe. And so basically what I'm doing is I'm just butting it right up against the line, but it's actually sitting on top of the orange paint. And so that's all there is to it. It just requires a lot of time, a lot of patience. And I won't lie, it can get pretty darn frustrating, but eventually you will get there. And so there we have it. I've got 3 out of 4 on this side applied. And you'll note that I applied the unit marking first, and I just felt happier with that. I felt it'd be easier to position things, and plus, why waste that little bit of black decal right there if you don't need to? You know? And obviously, when the decal gets to the point where it's sort of dry, but not so dry that it won't come off, that's when I trim the ends up to match that. And back here as well, I had a little bit extra there, so I just trimmed them off and then applied a little more microset, and we're good to go. So I've got 3 out of the 8 done that I have to do here. And it's starting to look pretty good. I really like the way that black cheat line looks around the orange like that. Pretty cool. Awesome. This is a set of masks I made for the US Army marking underneath the bottom wing, which I think is going to look far, far better than Microscale's effort. And this piece of paper obviously is just to cover up the national insignia, because I would not be a happy bunny if my mask ripped that decal off. And fortunately, that is the one thing that Microscale did get right on their sheet, is their national insignia do look quite good. So I'm going to do some more masking here, make sure I don't get any overspray. I'm going to paint that black and peel the mask off, and we'll see what we've got. And I might add that I'm going to make these masks available to members only. They won't be available on the Thunderbird Models website, only to members of this video channel. So do consider becoming a member. There are other perks in there as well, some outtakes and video previews and such and so forth. So have a look at that, and yeah, give it a go. Let's get some painting done. New day, new shirt. Well, not new, it's just clean because I did some laundry. So I was up at the crack of 1 a.m. this morning in order to get to work for 2:30, and then I put in a 13.5-hour shift. So needless to say, I'm a little bit tired today. Nonetheless, I did manage to get the US Army markings painted on the bottom wing of the P-12E before I had my power nap last night, all 2.5 hours of it. Thank you very much. And here we are. It turned out quite well, I think. I'm quite happy with that. Yeah, and significantly better than Microscale's effort here. You can see, far too small. And you might notice that I also slightly changed the proportions of the M. And I suspect that Microscale has used a modern US Air Force font to create this, which is not quite correct for pre-war U.S. Army Air Corps aircraft, needless to say. Nonetheless, I think that turned out well. I'm pretty happy with that. And if we compare that to a lovely picture in the in-action book, right there, I think you'll agree that that's pretty darn close. Much better proportions than the Microscale one. So, good to go on that. Happy with that. Looking okay. Now, there is one other issue with the Microscale decal sheet that I just noticed, and that concerns these numbers here, top and bottom. Those are for the individual aircraft identification numbers that go on the vertical fin. And so we look at the actual aircraft that I'm doing here, which is the one in the foreground there at the bottom, number 49. Compare it to those, and you can see that they are quite a bit different. And because of the corrugations on the tail, it really isn't practical to paint those on with a mask, unfortunately. So unless I can find a decent substitute, I may have to use those ones. And to be fair, it's possible that maybe some aircraft did have this particular style. I don't know. Maybe that wasn't standardized. Nonetheless, nowhere near these ones. So if I do have to use them, I'm not going to be happy about it. So there. It's a shame. I'm a big fan of Microscale and Superscale. They have some great sheets, great decal sheets. But they kind of dropped the ball with this one, I'm afraid. I don't think they did the research very well. Hey ho, what you gonna do, eh? Now, the print scale decals that I used for the black stripes, on the other hand, which are over here, and I'm trying to get them, and can't get them. There we go. These were pretty nice. Mostly they're just stripes, so, nothing fancy about them, but they went on really well. They conformed to all the curves that I needed them to, and they settled quite nicely into all the details. So I'm quite happy with those, which is good because I actually have quite a few of their sheets in my collection. So it's good to know that they go on well. And so I think that's it for the decal part of this episode. There's just one other thing I need to show you before we move on, and that is right over here, and it's the top wing. I've got the chevron painted on the top of it and on the bottom, and let me tell you, this was kind of a bitch to mask, just to get it proportioned correctly and lined up correctly and consistent from wingtip to wingtip, and also at the leading edge there where it meets. That was a lot of fun to get that all lined up. And what I ended up doing was masking and painting the top. And when that was dried, I then did the same on the bottom. I had originally intended to do it all at once, but that just wasn't practical. But anyway, it worked out pretty well. And as you can see, it wraps around the wingtip as well. So there we are. Oh, the ailerons, by the way, are not glued in yet. They're just sitting in there. They're pretty good fit. So I just put them in temporarily in order to paint that stripe or chevron or whatever it is. And so there we go. I think we're ready to start assembling this puppy finally and getting to my favorite part, rigging. Yes, you heard it correctly. I actually like rigging biplanes. I know, it's madness. Well, somebody's got to like it. Anyway, that will do it for this episode, because I need to get some sleep, I think. Yeah, sleep would be a good thing right about now. I kind of like that idea. And so, as always, thank you very, very much for watching. It's always appreciated. You know the drill. Like, subscribe, jump, shout, share, the other things that you got to do, all that things I can't think of right now because I'm really tired. Did I mention that? Yeah, kind of tired. Anyway, you know what to do. Thank you as always, and good night.